Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about the wonderful RC600 by Boss, the loop station. So before that, consider subscribing. I do guitar related content, covers, gear reviews, that sort of thing. And if you have any questions, anything like that, go to the description and leave a comment below. But first off, this is just going to be a review of the product to see if maybe you should buy the product. So today I'm going to talk about my experience. I'm going to talk about the specs. I'm going to go over the features. I'm going to answer the question, is it worth it? And then I'm going to give you some recommendations if you do buy this product, some things to think about and some other gear that you might need and some things to pay attention to. And then lastly, we're going to do an overview / demo. So just kind of like go through, let you see some of the in and outs of it and just scroll through some of the things, go over some of the rhythm tracks and some of the other things just up close and personal. So first, my experience. So I had been using the Ditto X2 looper for a long time, and I love that product. I have a review of that product, and I first bought it just because I loved what people were doing with loopers. I think I first saw Paul Gilbert use it, and I was just mesmerized. I was like, I got to get this thing. And so I bought it and I began using it just to practice chords. I would do like a one chord sort of thing, like a B minor kind of thing, and then just jam over B minor, practice different lines and scales and things. Then several years later, like 7-8 years later, which is probably like 4 years ago or something like that, I joined a little band. The band had a lot of drama and it fizzled out. So I just decided to go off on my own and do my own thing, and I got hired to play a wedding actually. And at this wedding, they wanted like a lot of tunes that we were playing in that band. So tunes like Hotel California and, just like oldies rock tunes, some country tunes, funk tunes, things that you would normally see a group play. And so I had to spend a lot of time thinking, how can I pull this off on my own? Am I just going to do fingerstyle the whole time? And so I decided I would try the looper. And so I went to the Ditto X2 looper and I started creating different loop patterns for all these different songs. And then, after several weeks and months, I became a looper or a loop artist, I guess. Then I started reaching out to different bars and restaurants and saying, hey, I would love to come out and perform. And I got hired to play several gigs and different things. And since then I've done, bars, restaurants, weddings, and, just different venues, being a looping artist. And so about 6 months ago, I was playing a gig, and this had happened once or twice before, but it became more frequent. The Ditto X2 looper just died. I don't know what happened. I was in the middle of a loop and then just nothing. It's extremely frustrating when that happens, especially whenever you get into the song and you're feeling like things are going perfect and then nothing. Just silence. After the last time that happened, I said, this is done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And so I had been hired to play so many gigs. I decided, I needed maybe the best of the best, and the best of the best didn't seem too expensive. And I felt like this was the best of the best. If I'm a looper artist, I can just buy this RC600 and just be set for another decade or so, right? And so that's what I did. I bought the Boss RC600 and here I am. So I get it in the mail, open it out of the box, and of course I do some research, but I start playing with this thing and I was thinking, I'm going to get it out of the box and, everyone says it's complicated to use, but, I've done several loops before, I'll be fine. So I start playing with it, I create a loop, and I immediately realize I'm not going to be able to gig with this thing for a while. And I had to spend several hours and probably a month and a half learning all the features, learning all the inside and out kind of things, because you have to program this to fit your needs. But then I realized that buying this isn't exactly enough, because this doesn't come with a case. And most people use this alongside, the Boss FSU foot switches. And so if you buy 2 of those, that sets you another $150 to $200 unless you buy those used, And so I already had one FSU switch, so I was okay there, but I needed another one. And so I bought the 2-switch one, which was like $75 from Sweetwater and maybe up to $100 new. I'm not 100% sure. I had to check back with the prices. But it was something that it felt like you needed. Even though you can program all these switches and do loads of different things with this, it just seems like you need those foot switches to be able to control certain elements about the loop in the middle of playing. So once I felt like I got it figured out enough, about a month went by probably where I didn't use it. And then I showed up to this gig, and I was like, hey guys, I'm trying out a new system today. It might be a little interesting. Let me know if you need me to turn it up, turn it down, whatever happens, you know. And so I start playing the gig. Everything's going good for the first couple of loops. One of the waitresses does tell me to turn it down at one point. But then a lot of like the customers are telling me to turn it up. So it was just, there's always that back and forth whenever you're playing live, right? And so I'm playing live, and I immediately start getting like more and more response from the audience. And I attribute this to, one, the clarity of the sound is way better in this since it's a 32-bit system. And then also having like live drums, even if they're like artificial, simulated, I just think like that gets people moving more. Whereas before, you know, I'm just like hitting my guitar for a bass drum sound, and then I'm doing like a strum that's muted for like a percussive sort of snare kind of sound, hi-hat maybe, you know, but like that's all you can do is maybe 2-3 sounds on your guitar. So using this system has been a serious upgrade for me, because I had one loop before that I could do, and I made it work doing certain verses and choruses, but it just limited me to certain songs. And now switching over to this where I can have 6 tracks, it was just kind of overwhelming. And that's what took so much time up front, and is still taking a lot of time for me to get used to and figure out certain things. And even like dancing around 9 switches versus the 2 that I had before is just a lot to process in your mind. And the muscle memory is coming along to where I just know what to hit. But that takes a lot of practice. And so you have to ask yourself, are you willing to go through all of that practice to learn this machine? Because it does take hours. The question, is it worth it, then comes to mind. And of course, 100%, everything that you get out of this is insane. It is totally worth it. Even if you have to buy, you know, an extra bag and the foot switches, the amount of stuff you get with this product is insane. But you have to ask yourself, are you willing to put in the hours? Are you willing to learn this? Are you willing to do what it takes in order to make this a performable, usable thing? And that's usually the downside that everybody brings up. It's a lot to learn how to program. It's a lot to learn all the different tracks. It's a lot to figure out how to personalize this thing. And then at the same time, figure out all the different parts in the song already. It can take a long time, especially if you're new into the looping field. I probably wouldn't recommend this product to somebody who's just starting out looping. I would recommend something like the Ditto or the Ditto X2 or something that's just one track, because learning to program all this is just going to take a long time. Is it a lot of fun? Yes. Do I love it? Yes. Would I buy it again? Of course, without a shadow of a doubt. But if you're not ready for all the stuff it takes, and all the reading, and all the forum scrolling, and all the video watching, and everything else that comes with this, that makes you scratch your head every other second whenever you're playing with it, until you figure it out, at least. Once you figure it out, great. Until then, not so great. Okay, guys, so now we're going to talk about some of the specs. So I'm going to save us a little bit of time, and I'm going to throw some stuff up on the screen. And I'm just going to read some stuff that sticks out to me based on how I've used it and what I think is important. So number one of the biggest things that sticks out to me is the 32-bit sound quality. Immediately when I ask people the difference of, you know, how I sounded before and how I sound now, is they say it's a lot more clear. And so I attribute that to this, as well as this just being a new state-of-the-art product. Definitely the 6 tracks is a big part. The 9 switches and being able to assign any one of these to anything you want. 2 mic inputs with phantom powering, you know, that's huge. I don't use mics when I perform. I just play acoustically instrumental things, and it works for me. But that might change in the future, and it's just nice to have in case anybody ever wants to come sing, they can use that mic. Lots of onboard effects, time-based effects that sync with the tempo. 2 control jacks for expression pedals. I do use that, and they are great, and like zero latency with those. Onboard rhythms, those are great, and we'll demo some of those later. And then being able to connect this to your CPU for regular updates. They've had 3 big updates since it came out, and each one has changed different things. Some people like version 2 and only stick with version 2. I'm using version 3, haven't had any issues, and I love it. Also, just the things that you can import and export via your computer through that USB, and the softwares that they have there, and being able to control the rhythms as well. I'm not going to go over all of those things, but it is nice that it's there. Some other specs I'm going to put up on the screen that I didn't know about. 1.5 hours per track, which is 13 hours max memory total. That's insane. You can have input effects on everything, which it looks like maybe 49 input effects or 53 multi-effects, which is also insane. You can plug headphones into it, and then you can also use the TRS cables for, controlling the foot switches and the expression pedals. And then you can see the height and the overall weight and width, depth, all of those things. And then also the part number, RC600. And now we're going to talk about some of the features. And so we're going to go to an overhead shot and just look at everything in the board. The first thing being all 9 of these switches right here, you can program to different things. So how it's set up when you first get it is you have start and then loop, and then you have stop, start, and loop, stop. And that's track 1, 2, and 3. When you hit track select, you switches to a different thing. And then you have track 3 right here, track 4 right here, track 5 right here. Some people have this set up to where this is track 1, this is track 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then these 3 buttons do different things. So I have it set up to where I have just like the standard track 1, 2, 3 right here. And then I have 4, 5, 6 right here. And then 6 I always has saved as just like a hi-hat kind of thing like that. And the reason being for that, well, I guess they don't really have to have a reason. That's just how I do it. You can program all these 9 switches to do different things, which is kind of an insane sort of thing. The next thing is the tracks themselves. You have 6 different ones, right? And those 6 different tracks can all have different loops, which can function at the same time, and the looper itself will sync them up if you want it to, and if you don't want it to, it won't. And so it comes with them already synced up, and I got my settings wrong a couple of different times where they didn't sync up, and that was a whole nother mess. But that's part of just figuring it out. And again, this is one of those things, you got to spend a lot of time to figure it out. So I have this set up to where when I click record, it'll start recording on beat 1. It won't start recording earlier. And so if I click just before beat 1, and beat 1 is when this flashes red. If I click just before beat 1, it won't truly start recording until beat 1. And then when I click off, it'll start the loop at beat 1, and then it'll end it whenever it comes back. And so no matter how many times I go through it, it'll sync back up with it. And so that's kind of nice, because with my Ditto X2 looper, I had to be perfect. Okay, so the next thing is the onboard effects. So if you go over here to loop, and then you click over, you can have input effects and track effects. And so just to show you how many there are, you can see I have these 3 on, this one off. And that's because the first one's usually the guitar to bass, and that makes the guitar sound like a bass, which lets me do bass effects. So let's just go through some of these. You have LFF, don't know what that is, or LPF. And then you have BPF, HPF, you have phaser, flanger, synth, lo-fi, radio, ring mod, guitar to bass, sustainer. And you can see you have so many, and these click through one at a time as it goes. Okay, there's different reverbs, different delays, there's a chorus, lots of different things. So the RC600 also has built-in amp modeling, as well as the effect modeling also. So you can see here you have a couple of different ones. You have a JC120, you have a natural clean, you have a full range, combo crunch, stack crunch, high gain, stack, power drive, extreme, lead, and then core metal. So you can see as you turn the knob, you dial heavier, right? And then as you turn it the other way, you dial a little bit more cleaner. So I like using the JC120, but I have experimented around with, you know, all of them. It's just kind of fun. But mainly whenever I play, I just do acoustic stuff right now, so I'm not using this at the moment, but I have played around with it quite a bit, and it does sound good. So the time-based effects, a little bit of the reverb, a little bit of the delay, will sync to the tap tempo, which is really nice too. So whatever you have this set on, your delays will come in with that tempo. So the next thing to mention is you have 99 memories. And so you can see this first one I have, you probably can't read that, but to me this says acoustic, blues, straight, light. And so an acoustic sound, it's meant to be used with my acoustic guitar. It's a blues rhythm sort of sound. The rhythm is straight, and then it's a light rhythm, which means it's not aggressive at all. It's just going to be a very kind of light sort of sound. All right, so you have 99 memories, and I have like these first 10 programmed to different things, right? And then the other ones, those are just your standard ones where I have nothing programmed. All right, so let's talk rhythm patterns. I'm just gonna go to a standard one. And if we go to the rhythm settings, okay, now at first it's on guide. Okay, so when you hit the guide, it'll play metronome. Okay, so you have the user kind of presets, you have the guide, you have an electro kind of rhythm. You have different patterns within this, and everyone will have different patterns. You have different kits through here, and you have different variations. And that's true for everyone, and the kits don't change whichever one you're using. So if you're using studio, over here there's a studio, and there's a live here, there's a live on every one, if that makes sense. And then each one only has 4 variations. Now there are a different number of patterns for each one. And if you connect this to your computer via USB, you can change these patterns yourself, which is kind of cool. You have some metal patterns: heavy rock, funk, alternative rock, soft rock, pop, funk, soul, R&B, fusion, jazz, blues, ballad, acoustic, and that's it. All right, so the rhythm pattern that I love is this one that I have set on acoustic, blues, straight, light. And this pattern is ballad, side stick 2. And so the reason I like this one is it just fits the acoustic vibe really well, and honestly fits a lot of different tunes. It fits blues, it fits rock, it can fit a funky sort of feel. It's just kind of, it's laid back. It's in the background. The other one I use a lot is the funk one. And so this pattern is funk pattern, 8-beat 2. Pretty straightforward, right? And then the variation. The last feature that I wanted to talk about is the USB support. So whenever you plug it in, there are 2 programs. There's a rhythm converter, and then there's also the Boss Tone Studio. And the Boss Tone Studio will allow you to export and import things directly into here and directly onto the track that you select. So you can import things into track 1, import them into track 2. What you can't do is import multiple into track 1. So you can't like overlay them from the software. I think that's something they should add. But the reason I want that, let's say I import a track that has bass and keys. Sometimes I like to take out what's recorded second by just like holding the switch and undoing it. That way I just get one track, and then later I can redo it and add that back, and that changes the sound of the song, right? But if I just add everything in, then I can't do that. And I can do like bass on 1, keys on 2, you know, that kind of thing, but it would be nice just to be able to overlay it in the software itself. The software is still great. I'm not saying it's not great. I'm just saying that's a feature to be aware of, and I think it would be great if they added it. Recommendations that I have. Number 1, there's a lot of people that post classes and have several videos out there, sort of like a shortcut kind of thing. If you're willing to do the research, you don't need that. And so whenever I bought this, that's something that I've seen everywhere, is Everyone has like their own like online class for like $100, $50. You've already sunk $600 into this. If you buy the gig bag, that's another like 80. If you buy the foot switches, that's another like 160. So, I mean, you're set back a lot of money. And so to buy like another class is just a lot. So, if you're willing to do the research, lots of people have videos out there. There are forums on Reddit. There are groups on Facebook. And so I have found a lot of useful information, just like Googling things that I'm looking for, like very specific things that I'm trying to do. And I've had success finding them in that way. There's something about taking the time and learning yourself, like how to program all these things and sitting there and figuring out where all of the different things are and being able to navigate through the menu and the effects and the loop menu and the settings menu and just all the different things that are inside of here that'll help you in the long run. Other things that I recommend buying the foot switches. I recommend getting a bag, and if you buy the specific Boss loop station bag, this will fit in there because that's what I have. You definitely need some TRS cables that will allow you to use the foot switches, and you got to make sure they have like 2 rings. And when I mean 2 rings, I mean like these 2 black rings like this. And that will allow you to control your foot switch and it be programmable from this RC600. So thanks for checking out my YouTube channel today. Be sure to subscribe, stick around for more content. Again, I do gear reviews, I do covers, and just guitar related content. So if you have any questions below, just put them in the comments below. And then if you've used this product, let me know what your experience is in the comments. I'd love to hear how you use this, or what feedback you might have to offer for somebody else who's looking to buy it. Again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.